PS5 jailbreak tutorial. So in this one, we have a new release of an updated version of the Dump Runner from EchoStretch, and this version adds the ability to install the application with icon so it can be loaded directly from the main menu. So when it comes to running your PS5 game backups, it's never really been implemented in a neat way where you can just launch it directly from the home menu, whereas now this has now been implemented so it just appears like any other application on the PS5 and you can launch it directly from the home menu. Even when you restart the console, you know, with something like Items Flow, you would still have to go back into Items Flow to then launch the game at least once before the shortcuts in the home menu would work. But with this version, you can actually install the application, reboot the console, and then relaunch the jailbreak, and you should still be able to launch it directly from the home menu, just like any of your other installed applications once the jailbreak is running. So this is an alternative way to run your PlayStation 5 game backups or homebrew applications without Items Flow or even etaHEN. This can be installed with etaHEN, but it can also be used standalone with Kstuff on its own without etaHEN even being involved if you want to just use Kstuff instead. So you also have that option with this too. So let's go ahead and take a look at this here. So first of all, there's quite a few things we need to download. So if you want to use etaHEN with this, go ahead and download the latest etaHEN bin file from this repo here. All the links will be in the description, of course. If you don't want to use etaHEN and you just want to use Kstuff on its own, you can go ahead and simply download the latest 1.6.7 build of Kstuff, which you can download from here. Now, if you're going with Kstuff standalone without etaHEN, there is an option to auto-enable and disable Kstuff using the Kstuff toggle payload, which you can set up there. But if you're using etaHEN, you can just use the toggle Kstuff options within etaHEN itself, like the pause Kstuff and unpause, or the controller shortcut that allows you to pause and unpause Kstuff whenever you want. Then we want the Dump Runner from EchoStretch's repo version 1.00 beta, which we can download the zip file for here. And then from the PS5 payload dev repo, we want the homebrew loader package file, and we also want the webserve payload or web server payload, which should be in here. Here is webserve ps5.elf. We want to download that one as well. And then finally, if you're using the YouTube jailbreak autoloader to load the jailbreak like I am, then you're also going to want to grab the y2jb update.zip file. Now, this method is best used with external drives, loading your PS5 game backups off an external drive, but you can run your games off an external drive quite easily with this method. It also makes it easy to load the games on. The only thing I would say is that if you want to run your games off an external drive, then you want a drive that has fast read and write speeds. So the best option would be an NVMe drive with a USB enclosure that supports USB 3.1 Gen 2, which will give you 10 gigabit per second throughput via the USB ports, which is the fastest speed that you can get with the PS5 because the USB ports only go up to 10 gigabit per second with the back USB ports and the USB-C port at the front. You can also use a SATA SSD with a USB to SATA adapter. That also works pretty well, but it is quite a bit slower than an NVMe drive. But the slower the drive, the more issues you're going to have with longer load times when running your games. So just bear that in mind, unless you take the time to copy the game over to the internal storage. But not all games actually load from the internal storage, which is another issue. So the first thing we're going to do here is open up our USB drive. Now make sure that your USB drive is formatted. If you right click and go to properties, we want to make sure that this USB drive is formatted in exFAT format, not FAT32 for this one. It needs to be exFAT. So you can right click and reformat the drive in exFAT format here and click start to reformat it, but obviously back up any data on the drive before doing so. And then you can take any games that you want. So I've got a bunch of PS5 games here. I've extracted Astrobot and Dead Space Remake over to my USB drive. So PS5 game backups are normally compressed in RAR files, 7-zip files, or zip files. So you can basically right click and use 7-zip to extract the files and then just give it the location on your USB drive to extract it to, and then extract it out to your USB, which is what I've done here. So with the games now extracted, all we need to do is create a homebrew folder on the root of the USB drive. So we create a homebrew folder, and then we simply copy the games in that homebrew folder. Okay, so to get the Dump Runner working with our game backups, we need to extract it into the game folders. So if we open up the dumprunner.zip file, we've got a dumprunner.elf file and the homebrew.js. So all we need to do is copy these inside our game dump folders. So we've got one copied over there to Astrobots folder and one to the Dead Space Remake folder. So if we go in here, you can see we have dumprunner.elf in the same folder as the eboot.bin, same as homebrew.js in the same location. So that's all you need there. The next thing we need to do is get the YouTube jailbreak set up. So if we open up the y2jb update.zip file, extract the PS5 autoloader folder to the root of the USB drive and open this up, delete the FTP file that's in there. And we want to take either Kstuff or etaHEN, depending on which one you want to use. I'm going to use etaHEN, so I'm going to copy that in. And the web server payload, we're also going to copy into that same folder. Then we just want to copy the file name of etaHEN, open up the autoload.txt file. And then all we need to do is delete all of the text that's in here. And you can paste in your etaHEN payload. And then underneath the etaHEN payload, we're then going to paste in the web serve payload name as well. So it will load etaHEN first and then the web server payload. But also, if you want to use Kstuff, you would just put Kstuff in here instead of etaHEN and then have it load Kstuff first and then the web serve payload. And then you can go ahead and save that file. So that is basically it. So that is how you get that set up. Now, finally, we want to get the package file for the homebrew launcher copied over as well. And we should be all good to go right here. So this is the structure that you want to be able to set this up. So at this point, we can go ahead and eject our USB drive and plug it in to our PS5. Okay, and once we're on the PS5, we're going to head over to our media section and run the YouTube jailbreak autoloader just to get the jailbreak set up. And it should detect our etaHEN payload on the USB, which it does. And of course, if you're using Kstuff standalone, it should load Kstuff version 1.6.7. But in our case, it's only loading Kstuff 1.6.6, which is the previous version. So we need to update Kstuff from within etaHEN. Obviously, this is not required if you're already just loading the Kstuff directly on its own. But if you're going through etaHEN, then we're going to want to do that. So I'm just going to head back over to our settings and go to our network settings, set up an internet connection, press options on your registered network, go to advanced settings. And I'm going to, of course, change this over 62.210.38.117 for the primary DNS, just to get an internet connection back on the console so that I can then successfully update Kstuff from within etaHEN by going to our debug settings or etaHEN toolbox. And then from here, we can go down to settings. We can go to the Kstuff menu here and replace Kstuff via GitHub, which will download the latest version of Kstuff right there. There we go, successfully downloaded. And now that that has been downloaded, we can switch our network settings back over to the update blocker for YouTube jailbreak, which is 127.0.0.2 to prevent it from updating the YouTube jailbreak autoloader. So it will still work. And that is basically it. If you cannot update Kstuff online, you can simply copy the latest version of Kstuff, the kstuff.elf file, into the data etaHEN folder and replace the one that's already in there. And that's the manual way to update the version of Kstuff that etaHEN loads. So we should be all good to go here. All we need to do is reboot the console. Of course, you don't need to do this if you're already loading Kstuff standalone because you're already loading the latest version. But for us, we loaded the previous version initially so that we could update Kstuff. But now that we have Kstuff updated in etaHEN, we need to reload the jailbreak so it can actually load that updated version of Kstuff that supports the auto mounter. And this time it should load everything off the USB. So it should not just load etaHEN 2.5b, but it should also load the updated version of Kstuff 1.6.7 this time, which we can see it loading there, as well as the HTTP server, which is running from the web serve payload, which has also been loaded. So that's everything we need right there loaded. So next, we're going to go into our settings, scroll down to our debug settings, package installer, and we're going to install the homebrew launcher. And we're going to copy that over, get that installed onto the system. And this is going to be used to install the applications in the first place. So if we go over to games, we now have homebrew launcher that we can select. So we select this. Now, even if you have a previous version installed, I highly recommend that you update to this version. You can see it was compiled on January 1st. So if you have a previous version of the homebrew launcher, make sure you still install this latest version here. So as you can see, our games are showing up. We've got Dead Space Remake and Astrobot showing up here. So if I want to install Astrobot, I just select it with X, and there it goes, installing PPSA 21564. Welcome to Dump Runner 1.0. So now when I back out, you can see Astrobot now shows up in the home menu, and I should be able to launch it directly from here. So I can just press X, and it launches the game. And this is launching directly off our USB. Okay, and that's us got the game up and running on our console using the Dump Runner. So this is the alternative method that you can use to get your PlayStation 5 game backups running. And it also works with PlayStation 4 game backups, and they can be loaded in the same way without a fake package. So I guess if you want to test stuff, or if you're swapping out files for modding, it can actually be beneficial to load the game directly from the extracted game files, because you can modify the files and then load it, which makes it easier for debugging and testing. So that's one thing. But as you can see, we've got it up and running. You can use items flow with etaHEN, which does give you more options. But this is just another way that you can load your PS5 game backups, especially when it comes to not using etaHEN. If you like to just use Kstuff standalone to be more lightweight, then you can, of course, load your game backups just using Kstuff with the web server payload and the Dump Runner. So the real test, though, is going to be restarting the console and seeing if we can actually just load the game backup directly from that shortcut that's on the home menu now, once we reload the jailbreak without having to go back into the homebrew launcher or items flow to be able to load it. Okay, so I've rebooted the console. Obviously, it's not going to launch directly without the jailbreak running, so we need to reload the jailbreak again. Okay, we're back up and running. HTTP server running. We're on Kstuff version 1.6.7. Okay, so moment of truth. We try and run it again, and it looks like it's going to work. Fingers crossed. Yep, there we go. The game is now launching once again, loaded directly off the home menu after reloading the jailbreak. So you don't have to go back into another application to get the shortcut to work. Just reload the jailbreak when you have the web server payload running, along with, of course, Kstuff, the latest version. Then you should be able to get your game backups loaded directly from the home menu, which makes it a lot easier to use here. So that is the general idea. That's how you can get your PlayStation 5 game dumps as well as PS4 game dumps can be loaded in the same way now. And of course, you can also use etaHEN with items flow, which I will be covering in another video as part of the main tutorial playlist for jailbreaking the PS5, showing you the kind of main way that you can load your PlayStation 5 game backups through items flow, which does give you other options as well, like the ability to move and copy your games to other locations like the console storage or an installed M.2 drive. So we'll be covering all of that in the near future here. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one or found the